Will Dak's new deal impact Lamar Jackson's extension talks? Speaking of Dak Prescott, can he make a run at MVP this season? With that, we say good Wednesday morning, everyone. Jenna Wolf alongside Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall. We got Kevin Wilds. Nick, I don't know. A Cowboys quarterback's never actually won MVP. Could be Dak's year.
It's a good stat. It's a good stat. He's got a great shot at it this year, Jenna.
Well, he's in the conversation. Let's put it that way. We'll get to that in a second. We got to start in Tampa, though, where the Super Bowl champs had a very busy day yesterday. Very busy. First, they went and placed the franchise tag on Chris Godwin, your guy, Nick. Then they reportedly came to terms with all-pro linebacker Lavonte David, locked him up for 2 years. So where does that now leave Shaq Barrett? Brandon, I'll start with you. Bucs are trying to run it back. We see that. What'd you make of them tagging Godwin, signing Lavonte David, and then not locking up Shaq Barrett?
No, I didn't look at that as a bad thing. Yesterday, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made a statement, and they put the entire NFL on notice. They said, we're going to do exactly that. We're going to run it back. Because there's a lot of things out there. Everything we were talking about since the Super Bowl was who are they going to prioritize? Shaq Barrett, you got Ndamukong Suh, you have AB, you have Gronk, you have Chris Godwin. A lot of us, even yesterday, I think on the show or this week, talked about Chris Godwin. No way they're going to bring him back. You know, at the parade, the Super Bowl parade, what did Bruce Arians say to Chris Godwin? He said, your ASS isn't going anywhere. He said the same thing to Lavonte David. Your ASS isn't going anywhere. So the way they did it, they tagged Godwin, and then they gave Lavonte that 2-year deal for $25 million, 20 guarantee. It just told everybody this is what we're going to do. We're running it back. Shaq Barrett, I talked to Lavonte last night. He was on the podcast, and he said, look, he's coming back. They're working on that right now. And they're also working on Ndamukong Suh. They know how special that defense is. They said that Week 12 game, Tom Brady came in and said, you guys keep doing what y'all doing. We're going to get it right on the offensive side. And that from that moment on, they felt like they weren't going to lose another game. But it also shows the importance of that defense and how everyone in that organization, including Tom Brady, knows that that path to the Super Bowl and how they got that Lombardi trophy came through Todd Bowles and that defense. So it will behoove everyone to think that, oh, let's go and do something else on offense. No, you got to keep that defense intact, and that's your strength right there is those guys. So I see Shaq Barrett coming back, and I see them locking this up soon, Nick.
Well, that last part that you said there is why it's surprising to me that they used the tag on Godwin rather than Shaq Barrett. Before I give my analysis, I must do something that I am wont to do, which is I must issue an apology. It would appear my, up to this point, never inaccurate sources in Tampa have been feeding me misinformation. Because the Godwin-Tom Brady beef that I have been reporting on for months and months has never came to fruition. And now listen, my source reached back out yesterday and said that they had to tag Godwin because he wouldn't sign the extension because of that blood feud between he and Brady, but I don't know if I can believe that person anymore. It appears Godwin and Brady are on good terms. But it is surprising to me that they are opening the door to Shaq Barrett leaving rather than opening the door to Chris Godwin leaving. Because one place the Bucs certainly have the most depth on their roster is pass catcher. They've got Mike Evans locked up. They have Gronk, I'm sure, coming back, Cameron Brate coming back, and O.J. Howard, who might be the best tight end on the team, who was out last year, a lot of last year due to injury, he's back. Scotty Miller's back. Tyler Johnson, who wasn't used very often, but made that unbelievable catch in the game against the Packers, which led to Troy talking about how Brady had been raving about Tyler Johnson in practice, leading up to the game, about how he's a guy they just don't have room for, like doesn't get enough targets, and AB still floating out there as a possibility. The fact that they said we can't lose Godwin and now might lose Barrett is surprising because I agree with Brandon. The way they won that Super Bowl was that front seven dominating the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, maybe they've got a deal in place with Shaq Barrett, but Wilds, this is a guy who was undrafted, who has played 7 years in the NFL, his first 4 years made a combined $1.9 million. In his entire career has made $25 million, and is 28 years old, and this is going to be his most likely last big payday, and he already has 2 rings. So if there was ever a guy to prioritize money over championships, it'd be the guy who hasn't made a lot of money and has won a bunch of championships. So I'm just surprised that they tagged Godwin as opposed to Barrett. I would thought it was going to go the other way around. Now, if they bring Barrett back, then everybody wins, but I think that's going to be a tougher sell than people understand at this moment.
So, Nick, I'll throw it back to you. Do you think there's a chance that there's a handshake deal of like, hey, Shaq, we're not going to franchise tag you, but we're going to work on getting this long-term deal done, hopefully be announced soon. So don't test the market. Take our word for it. Like, we won't tag you, but we're still totally committed to you. Is that how you see things happening? Or do you think there's a responsibility to go out and test the market regardless?
Yeah, I think that would, first of all, I think that'd be malpractice by his agent to not let him at this point test the market. Second of all, you know what's better than a handshake agreement? An actual agreement. Like the one Lavonte David came to yesterday. Yeah, like they could have locked him up. They locked up Lavonte David. And so, I mean, Brandon, you've been through this process before. Once you're days away from hitting the open market, don't you want to listen to other teams? Don't you want to hear if somebody is going to blow you away with an offer? When you're this close, you've already taken the risk. Like, you don't have to play any more games and risk injury. I would think Shaq Barrett's going to take meetings and see what is out there.
Yeah, but not if it's close. Like, you know your market. So right now, I'm gonna be honest with you. Guys know what other teams are going to come, where they're going to come in at. So let's say, you know, Team A. Let's say the Las Vegas Raiders are at $15 million a year, and I'm just throwing those numbers out there. And then the Tampa Bay Bucks are at 13 and a half, and you're in love with Tampa, and you want to run it back, then you're a guy that you're probably going to look at that, and you're going to consider that. Nick, I push back on you. I disagree with you. I think this is the most complex deal. So I think the reason why they got the deal done with Lavonte is because it was a 2-year deal for $25 million. Yes, $20 million guarantee. Phenomenal deal for him. This is a kid that was All-Pro 2013, 2016, and last year. But this dude, we're talking about a guy who was on our show and said, no, it's time for me to get paid. So now you're looking at a 4-year deal, maybe a 3-year deal, and we're talking about 14, 15, 16 plus. I don't know where this deal is going to come in at. Chris Godwin, I like this move for the team. I don't like it for Chris. I hate the franchise tag. But Chris Godwin, why would I pay Mike Evans $20 million and then go pay Chris $15, $16, $17 million on a 4-year deal? It just doesn't make sense to me. I think the way they're doing it, they're making a statement, and they got everything they need. I think they have something in hand with Shaq, and I think they're going to work it out in the next week or so.
So, Brandon, when we had Shaq on the show, we asked him, like, hey, do you want to stay with Tampa or do you want to test the market? And he started raving about Tampa and how much he loved Bruce Arians and how much he loved the team and how they wanted to run it back. And you interrupted. You were like, hey, don't say too much. Don't ruin the market value. Like, you know, play your cards a little closer to the vest. Do you feel like now, as things have progressed, that maybe you don't need to have necessarily an adversarial relationship with the team, that you can do everything in good faith and be like, look, I want to stay here. I'm not going to give you a discount, but I want to stay here and run it back, and it won't affect your money?
Yeah, I mean, this is a team right now that is willing and dealing off of emotion. They just won a Super Bowl together. You heard Bruce Arians, you know, at the parade, and he said, what, we're bringing your ASS back to a couple guys. And that's exactly what they're doing. Now, a lot of times this thing get political, and it's exactly what Nick is talking about. It's like, well, we got to make this move because we're going to get leverage over here. There's a lot of teams that work that way, but then there's 1 or 2 teams, it's not the majority, that says, you know what, I really like you. Let's just do this thing in love and figure it out. Like, we know you want to be here. We want you to be here. We know your value. Let's make it make sense. sense. And that's what I think is happening in Tampa is everybody's willing and dealing off of emotion right now, just coming off of that Super Bowl high, and they're going to get things done. And I think it's going to be beneficial for the Bucs for the next 2 years.
All right, once again, the Bucs bringing Chris Godwin's ASS back under the franchise tag. He'll make just over $15 million on that tag. We are back here talking Lamar Jackson. Will Dak mega deal impact the former MVP's extension?